My name is Mihailo Jovanovic, and it's an absolute pleasure to do this interview with my brilliant daughter Anka.
I'm Anka. All right. So, what made you want to move to the United States?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. See, I've always been intrigued by the US, and the reason being that the US is influencing countries globally at many different ways, culturally, politically, economically, and so on. And there is this big degree of mystery that is typically associated with the US. I grew up in communism, right? And as you probably know, communism is a very different type of social exercise compared to the system that exists in the US. And somehow I always wanted to be a part of a society in which people are judged based on their merits and their abilities rather than some other criteria. And obviously my big exposure to the US was through sports. I admired many of the US athletes, and I was always impressed by their ability to somehow accomplish things at a level that are inspiring to broader masses, from Carl Lewis in track and field to Michael Jordan in basketball. And then when I got an opportunity to come to the US to do my PhD, when I got a fellowship for my PhD studies at UC Santa Barbara, that was a really big professional opportunity that I felt would open doors to things that I wanted to do with my career and my life. So the first reason is of professional nature. I got this amazing professional opportunity to continue studying in my area of interest and to professionally move myself to the next level. And another reason was that political situation back home in late 90s, when I was fresh out of college, was very bad, and I somehow wanted to get out of that situation and to start fresh. And once I got a chance to come to the US to do a PhD, in a sense it was a no-brainer, and I'm glad that I jumped at that opportunity.
What was the most frightening thing about moving to the United States?
Oh, there are many aspects of that. I mean, obviously, whenever you change the direction in which your life goes, there is lots of uncertainty associated with this. And even when you make small steps, small changes, they can be frightening. But in my case, I went to a place that was 10,000 kilometers away from my home country. I had to leave my entire prior life behind me, my friends and family, and to start from scratch, start building relations and opportunities, and getting familiar with new culture and new society in which I moved, and starting embracing all of these opportunities and challenges while at the same time being frightened of not succeeding along the way, right? Because there are no guarantees that I'm going to succeed in what I tried, and that this experiment that I undertook is going to lead to a success, whatever you define as a success, right? So it was frightening experience every step along the way, right? And probably, as I mentioned, the most frightening experience, the most frightening aspect of it is that everything was new. US is very culturally different compared to the place where I was coming from. I also moved from a big and vibrant metropolitan area, Belgrade, which is Balkan version of New York, to a small city on the west coast, Santa Barbara, right, which was kind of a sleepy and low pace type of environment. So it was a challenge also to adjust culturally to this new environment and to figure out what drives people, what motivates people, how can I somehow embrace this new environment compared to where I'm coming from. And then, the biggest challenge that you're facing along the way is just putting aside your fears and your doubts. Once you convince yourself that this is the thing to do, and once you embrace new challenges, and rather than looking at them as challenges, you look at them as opportunities, things become much easier.
So what exactly about American culture is so different from Serbian culture, and how did you get used to this?
That's an excellent question. So, America is a very individualistic society. And it's also a workaholic society. So here, nobody's going to prevent you from doing what you're passionate about. And you're always going to find people that are going to be enthusiastic about your own passions. And when people don't embrace your choices and your passions, they're not going to be that judgmental. There is this space that you have for yourself. So here almost everybody lives in their own bubble, right? Whereas in Europe and in Serbia, this is all intertwined, if you want to. It's like your friends are going to judge what you're doing and to question your choices, and your family members are going to express their opinions in a very, very strong way, right, and so on. That's an annoying aspect of the culture where I'm coming from, but this also implies that social ties are much stronger than here. Here, social ties, everybody respects your choices and gives you enough space, but at the same time, when you want to socialize with people and so on, other people are passionate about their own things and they are busy with their own lives, so it's much more challenging actually to socialize and to interact with them socially. So getting used to that and embracing pursuit of my own interests and dreams without relying too much on others and expecting others to lift me along the way, right, took a bit of getting used to.
And how did you preserve your Serbian culture and heritage?
Just by being cognizant of the fact that it's important to me to continue being connected to the place where I'm coming from by never shying away from where I come from, even during difficult times, right? By being completely open and transparent about it, and by essentially keeping connection to the place where I'm coming from through both personal and professional interactions. Back in the day, it wasn't easy actually to keep these connections because social networks were not available. The only way we could communicate was through email.
Yes.
And through ridiculously expensive phone calls. Even Skype was not existent back in the day. And I was fortunate enough that when I moved to Santa Barbara, a group of 7 of us from former Yugoslavia came to do graduate work at UC Santa Barbara, and we were just young people who shared who had similar background and shared similar dreams and objectives in life, and we were 10,000 kilometers removed from our home country, but we somehow created environment in Santa Barbara that celebrated where we were from and honored where we were from, and reminded us, brought essentially Serbia and former Yugoslavia to Santa Barbara. We were relentless in organizing parties and showing people how wild Serbs can be when they celebrate.
Yes.
Both in terms of our atrocious music taste and in terms of our delicious cuisine and drinks that we like so much and appreciate. And we made quite a reputation for ourselves. People actually got to know us better, and we were proud that we were changing perceptions about Serbia, because when we moved to the US, it was bumpy time back home, and perceptions in media and in narrative that was surrounding us was not always positive about us, but we tried to somehow change these perceptions through our own small efforts that we were putting, and through who we were and through how we were behaving and treating other people, and to a large extent we were succeeding in doing that.
So would you say that people looked at you differently once they learned that you were from Serbia?
That's a fantastic question, actually. See, early on, again, it was, people always have their certain preconceived notions about something, right? And then, again, I came to the US around the time when conflict in Kosovo was under the way, and there was lots of negative reports from back home, and the US got actively involved in the situation back home, and NATO was bombing Serbia in a war with Serbia, if you want to, and then obviously narratives and perceptions were very negative. So I would notice that when somebody asked me around that time where I was from, and I would say I was coming from Serbia, they would typically say interesting. I didn't know early on what interesting meant. Mm-hmm. I was like, what the heck is interesting about that? But then I figured out quickly that, this is a polite way of saying, have a nice day. I don't want to continue this conversation, but I'm just too kind to tell you that this is the case. So it wasn't very often, it was not pleasant, but at the same time, one thing that I like about US is that people are pretty receptive in terms of where you're coming from, and most people judge you based on who you are rather than where you're coming from, and I appreciated that aspect, right? I mean, obviously I would not hide where I was coming from, but at the same time I would never be extreme in terms of my views, and I would try to provide nuanced and unbiased view of any given situation. And in spite of these challenges, you're who you are, and you are, you can't hide where you are from, right? Different people react differently to these things. Some people want to detach themselves from where they're coming from, and they come here and they don't speak native language anymore and so on. I was never embracing that viewpoint, and I'm glad that I decided to behave that way. And people who are interested in learning who you are really as a person, with them you always get a chance to move things to the next level in terms of impressions that they're forming about you. And people who don't care, they're not going to care anyway. So in that sense, I think it's, looking back, there are challenges along the way, but nothing out of ordinary.
And what challenges did you have to overcome to become the wonderful person you are today?
Oh wow, thank you. Well, I mean, I think it's probably universal. The biggest challenge is just to get to know yourself and to overcome your own fears and weaknesses that you have, and to relentlessly work towards accomplishing your goals and your dreams. Right? I mean, it's entire life is just a continuous process of growing and getting to know yourself and learning about yourself and learning how to overcome weaknesses that you have. Everybody has weaknesses, of course, but once you realize what your weaknesses are, you are then in a much better position to move yourself to a better place. I would say that the biggest challenge for me in the US was just changing how I interact with people, right? Being more receptive to alternative viewpoints, even when viewpoints that I'm exposed to orthogonal to my own views, and not jumping to conclusion immediately and not voicing my opinion in a way that closes the door, right? So keeping somehow back home, that's probably one of our biggest weaknesses, that we are too quick to jump to conclusions and to finish conversation prematurely. Somehow, if you don't jump to conclusion too early, and if you continue, give people chance to continue explaining their viewpoints and so on, I feel that in the long run you move to a better place, right? So all of these things were foreign to me when I came here, but you somehow observe successful people and you learn from them, and you learn what mistakes you made in the past, and you correct your actions, and just the process of growing up and learning about yourself and learning how to overcome weaknesses that you have and believing in yourself, having confidence all the time, right? Because when you don't have even people who, right? I mean, you need to have confidence. You need to believe in yourself in order to succeed. And again, leaving my home country and moving to a place that is on the other end of the world is a non-trivial exercise. So if you don't have confidence and you don't believe in yourself, this can very easily become way more challenging experience than it should be.
In what ways did you have to change to accommodate life here?
I mean, so many ways that it's impossible to list this. But again, this is not making changes overnight. Never leads to anything
Right.
good, right? So this is all a process.
Yes.
And then you somehow, the way process of educating yourself and going through, I was fortunate enough to move here to grad school, right? And this is a pretty good starting point, right? Because you're now a high school student, and even though it's challenging to deal with all of these things that are thrown at you on daily basis in your school, at the same time you're learning new things and you're maturing along the way, and you are refining your views of the world, and you are gaining friendships along the way, right? And this is, going to school, generally speaking, is exciting time of your life, because you don't have these pressures that people in real lives have, in terms of making money, in terms of doing things that they're not excited about, and so on, right? So in that sense, I was fortunate enough to come to grad school, right, and to be in the environment that was conducive to my growth, personal and professional growth. And then once you set your goals, you can start working towards these goals. The question is, what should be my goal, right? Because you have many options, right? In graduate school, I'm an engineer, right? I could go to industry, right, and work there, or I could choose to go to academia, and right. But all of these things you need to obviously be successful in order to put yourself in a position to get a job and professional opportunities that you want to obtain, right? And then once I figured out what I wanted to do, it was much easier actually to do the rest, because then you observe people around you that are successful, and you somehow try to close the gap between you and these successful people, right? Because if successful people around you don't embrace what you're doing and they don't recognize your contributions, you probably need to fix that. If you don't manage to fix that, then maybe this is not a good career choice for you. I'm talking now about professional growth, but this professional growth along the ways brings also changes in your own personal attitude about things, right? Because through school you also learn how to adjust your behavior in social context and in your own personal life. So in that sense, So again, the question is, what was the exact question that you asked?
How you had to change.
Yeah, I mean, you once you set your goals, then you essentially see everything is a function of your attitude, right? I mean, you need to convince yourself that you can do something, right? Once you convince yourself that you can do something, this is easier said than done. Then you work towards these things, and just changing my attitude and being open-minded and being receptive to alternative viewpoints and listening to feedback that people were giving me along the way, both professional and personal, and observing my own weaknesses in personal and professional interactions was a useful thing. But being open-minded and realizing when you make mistakes and providing proper corrective action along the way was an important lesson that I had to learn along the way.
So what are you most proud of for accomplishing in your life?
So far we've been mostly talking about professional things.
Right.
But I mean, I have to bring this to personal level. I'm most proud of my beautiful kids. You see how excited I am? I started kicking things around. Sorry about that. So, I mean, look, it's when I take a look at you and your brother, I mean, I'm proud of you in ways that you cannot imagine. So it's both of you amazing in your own ways, annoying in your own ways, right? But
right.
Just observing your growth on daily basis and how you're converting yourselves into fantastic human beings, and all things that you bring to the table. I mean, this has been a priceless experience. Professionally, I am, also proud of many things. I've accomplished professionally way more than I ever hoped for. Things that I could have never dreamed of, and I could certainly say that without coming to the US, this would have never been possible. I interacted with a number of brilliant people in my career, starting from my advisor in grad school and my other professors that I interacted with there, and my office mates, people that became my friends, and then many other people that I met along the way, and that influenced the way I think about things and the way I approach things. So I'm equally proud of my professional accomplishments as I am proud of my family and friends and personal relations that I formed along the way.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope we can do this again.
This was
Yeah.
awesome. So slightly shorter than the first take, but equally enjoyable.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.